Welcome everyone. Hello. We have the lovely Mary here today, Marketing and Sales Manager. I'm Mitra. I do marketing here with Gentile. And then we have the wonderful David Mina. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been an inspiration to me, and I don't have diabetes. So just being able to see all of your posts about positivity and making lemonade out of diabetes and all of that fun stuff. Yeah, it's been super amazing to see. I guess for the people that might not know you, our YouTube audience is a little bit different than our Instagram audience. Go ahead and just kind of give your little elevator pitch, I guess, of what you do in the space.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Yeah, I'm kind of in the diabetes space. I've had diabetes for 12 years. Um, I was diagnosed when I was 11 years old. Right now, I run my Instagram Type 1 Livabetic. So I do, different posts on just living with diabetes through positivity. I do a lot of graphic design for my Instagram. That's what I do right now currently. So, along with that, I'm working my way to become a diabetes educator as well. So I'm kind of combining the two together through my social media platform. But yeah, it's been a really great experience getting to connect with different people and be a part of the
Yeah.
community, but also apply some creativity to it. So it's been a really good journey, despite living with diabetes. So I got
Yeah.
to meet amazing people like you too, of course, through
Thank
this. But yeah, it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the things that you talk about are relatable to so many other, invisible chronic illnesses and other struggles in life. Um, I guess before we hop into our like main topic of the day, which is male representation in the diabetes space, um, what other obstacles do you feel? Because I can only imagine that sharing something that's so difficult to deal with, like it can be exhausting. Like you feel like you always have to show up as this positive source of inspiration. Um, I'm sure that that's difficult. Like how do you balance that?
Yeah, my journey with diabetes wasn't always, living through positivity. I've
Yeah.
definitely gone through some really dark moments, especially when I was, a teenager, still adjusting to life, but also life with diabetes. And I personally needed that outlet to connect with different people despite diabetes. I felt like, this is something I really need to talk about and connect with other people on. And so I decided to kind of just put myself out there and talk about what I'm actually going through and my struggles with diabetes. And that in itself has helped me personally. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, I think the community, we can all agree, like when we connect with each other, it helps us deal with diabetes much better.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think just bringing diabetes to the table, putting it all out there, what you're going through, it's up to everyone what you want to share and what you don't want to share, but, whatever you're comfortable with, but just kind of connecting with somebody who gets it and who understands, that's like
Yeah.
key when you're really, struggling with something that you feel is so invisible and, what people might not understand what you're going through. There is a community out there of people who do understand at the end of the day, and that's, what makes the difference at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think that kind of segues into the point of this show and this series that we're doing is we're trying to I mean, we may not get it all the time. I mean, Mary, you might have to think about gestational diabetes for a short amount of time, but it's not something that we deal with every day. So I think it's part of why we want to do like a little sugar check with you is like we might not have to do it all the time, but like I think having that kind of communal experience and doing it together, I think is just a small, super small way to connect with you guys. So I don't know if you have your little kit
I
next to
do.
you, but I'm gonna start if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, and David, on that topic, one of my really good friends from college, I went to school for graphic design, so when
Okay,
I hear
nice.
you're a graphic designer, I was like, yep, awesome. I could totally tell your background's like perfectly set up and everything.
Yep.
But I didn't know for the first like year and a half that she even was type 1. After hearing that, and then we'd go out to eat, and she would have to like bowl us for whatever we were going to be eating, anything like that. And I could see that she kind of almost hid it for a little while because
Yeah.
she knows it's something that we couldn't relate to. And I was like, why, girl? Like, please don't. Like, I'll be
Yeah.
here, tell all those strangers staring at you just to kind of like go away.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think, that sounds very similar to my experience, especially when I was in school for graphic design, funny enough. Like, I would hide my diabetes at all costs. Like, I did not want to share the fact that I had diabetes with anyone because I felt like nobody, especially at school, was going to understand because I was the only one with diabetes. But
Yeah.
when I started talking about it more and making my design work based on diabetes, it became easier to talk about. My classmates had a better understanding for diabetes this way. Um, and I talk about this all the time, but my experience in school talking about diabetes and creating diabetes work made the difference for me. I think in my 12 years of diabetes, that was like the pivotal moment of comfort living with diabetes and talking about it, not being, embarrassed by it. And so, yeah, like you said with your friend Mary, like I think just, you know, ignoring what people may think or may not think, like it's your life and you can be completely yourself, diabetes or not, and it's nothing to be ashamed of at the end of the day.
Exactly, and that's kind of, I was almost mad at her when I found out. I was like, come on, what'd you think? I was gonna be like, no, Sarah, we can't be friends anymore. You have type
Yeah,
1, but instead it was the exact opposite. It's like kind of watching out for her in another regard. Like, her and I have done events like a Tough Mudder event, basically, and she had me carry low supplies for her because you never know.
Yeah.
So it's created a stronger bond between us afterwards.
Yeah.
definitely. I love that.
And I think it's so much too, like, the other people perceive your life the way that you like show it, right? So if you are super confident with life with diabetes and you do things like style your diabetes, like you talk about all the time, um, people are kind of gravitated to that and want to learn more about it. And then in turn, there's less ignorance about the topic as well because you're attracting people to discuss about it. So that's
Definitely.
super, super amazing. You guys, I'm at 85, so I'm gonna chug this lemonade that I made for myself.
What are you at,
Um,
Mary?
I was 93, which Mitra mentioned already. I'm pregnant and I'm due in a couple months,
Yeah,
but like that's good. I definitely am not
yeah.
gestational. They told me I'm in a pretty good range, so.
perfect.
um, styling your diabetes actually kind of leads me into our topic because I was speaking with a friend of ours, Bosma, not too long ago.
Yeah,
We were brainstorming about our IG live we were going to have, and she said that she had a conversation with you about how there's a lack of male representation in the online diabetes space specifically. And I think one of the topics she came up with, or she said that you mentioned, was the fact that, like, men don't always have like as many accessories marketed towards them for like taking their supplies places. It's more traditionally known that women have their purses or whatever it may be. Do you think that that's kind of like that aids into the lack of representation in the space?
yeah, I definitely think that has something to do with it, of course. I've had, yeah, several conversations with different people about the fact that there is a lack of not just male representation on social media, but in general, it's something that I do find that it's hard as a guy to talk about, your feelings and emotions towards something like a chronic illness. And I get that.
Yeah.
Um, One of my good friends, we connected over the fact that, being a guy with diabetes, I had never, seen anyone with diabetes before I got involved with the online community, but especially a guy and, somebody that I could kind of relate with and look up to.
Yeah.
Um, and, we connected over that, and that's how we became friends. And now it's like, the more you share, the more you put out, showing that, you know, we all have diabetes at the end of the day. And I think sharing your experience is all that matters. You can inspire somebody who may be needing to see that role model, that kind of like how I
Yeah.
was needing that. And then I found that there was a handful of male diabetics that I could look up to at the time. And
Yeah.
since then, I've noticed a growth in, that male representation. There are so many more you can find, you can connect with. And I think just the more you share, the easier it is to show that it's nothing, you know, you need to be embarrassed about. It's totally
Yeah.
okay to talk about your feelings. It's totally okay to talk about emotions. As a guy, like you don't need to really hide that. And I think, just the more you do, the more you will feel that, it'll reciprocate and you'll feel so much, lighter in talking about
Yeah.
diabetes and dealing with it. Kind of going back to what you were saying about like styling your diabetes and carrying it around with you. I've always struggled with this, and I've talked about this several times on social media. Like, I was diagnosed when I was 11, so, um, I was still a kid. I was still, with my parents all the time. So anytime I went out, I would put my meter kit, for example, in my mom's purse. And
Yeah.
that in itself didn't allow me to fully own my diabetes because technically it wasn't attached to me. I was
Yeah.
kind of extending it to another person. And it wasn't until I found other guys with diabetes that I could kind of relate with and ask, like, how do you guys carry your supplies around? How do you, deal with this? Or, where do you put your pump when you're doing some physical activity or something like that?
Yeah.
And I learned different ways on how people do that. Now you see all the time, like I'm wearing a crossbody bag with all my, diabetes supplies, or I'll
Yeah.
carry a backpack or things like that. But it's experiences like that that help shape you for what you're needing and for what
Yeah.
you're wanting out of your diabetes. So I really wanted to own my diabetes, and I kind of went out looking for how to do that. And
Yeah.
now I could say confidently, like I'm comfortable with how I do diabetes and how I style it, how I carry it around with me all the time. And that's all thanks to social media, the diabetes community, just connecting with
Yeah.
others, finding your role models, finding who you can look up to. And yeah, that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that there's something to be said about like intersectionality, right? So there's always so much of a stigma to talk about, chronic illnesses to begin with. And then there's a whole other set of stigmas related to diabetes. And then you have the other layer of talking about emotions as a man, and feeling comfortable in doing that. So when you have both of those things, what feels like stacked against you, it can be so much harder to speak out, or find people that you can look up to who are willing to speak out. So that's another reason why I think what you're doing is super important, because now you can be that person for someone else who
I
might be
hope.
newly
Thank you.
diagnosed, and just not know how they fit in the space. So I love that. Let's see here. We actually do have a few questions from our audience. Do you think we have time for those, Mary?
I think we should include them because they want to hear. So
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question from Type 1 Brock, who says, what is the biggest inconvenience of diabetes? That's a loaded one. I don't know how you're going to address that one. Quite open-ended.
So I was, yeah, thinking about this question, and just thinking diabetes, like I'm not going to sugarcoat it, like it is an inconvenience in itself. You can go low or high at the worst time possible. You can have your pump tubing just get caught on a doorknob, which has been happening to me a lot lately, and just it rips
Oh,
out, and it's like a struggle, and I totally get that. And those are like the little inconveniences that we think about day to day. Um, but I don't like to look at diabetes as an inconvenience. I like to look at it as a learning opportunity, and an opportunity to grow from. So, yeah, you go through these inconveniences at times, but they teach you how to kind of work past them for the next time, how to plan ahead. how to be more, careful, or even take risks, but how to do it safely. And I think, you know, everybody's different, and I say this all the time. Everybody's journey with diabetes is completely different, and that's okay. That's a personal thing. And so, what may be an inconvenience to me, which is, pump tubing getting ripped out or whatever, might be different for someone else who may not even be on a pump. But we
Yeah.
all have inconveniences, and it's just how we look at them, how we learn from them and grow from them, and kind of just turn it around into a positive spin somehow.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's how I would look at inconveniences with diabetes. I get it, diabetes can
Yeah.
suck, but there's a way to kind of shift your mindset and make it, a learning opportunity and a growing opportunity as well.
Yeah. And even if, like you said, those inconveniences are different for other people, just the fact that you guys have that adversity, whatever it is that you have to go
Yeah.
through, shapes you as a human, and you can connect on it as well.
Yep, and
Definitely.
everybody deals with their own struggles as well. So, like you
Yeah.
said, it might not be their pump getting caught, tubing getting caught. It could be them. My friend, she runs into doorways and knocks her Dexcom off. So,
Oh. Yeah.
it's everybody kind of has their own struggles, but you just think about it as, hey, try to give myself more room around doorways or something like that. So,
Exactly.
it's not an inconvenience. We all have struggles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, next question from Type 1 MUA. She says, first of all, she says, "Oh, David." And then she says, "How do you respond to ignorant comments about diabetes?"
Yeah. I I really like this question because I think we all have dealt with ignorant comments at one point. I don't know. Diabetes still apparently has that stigma of, like you got diabetes because you ate too much sugar, or, all of those comments that we've heard of. Um, for me, like if it was on social media, for example, usually the person who said that clearly just doesn't have the education on what diabetes really is, isn't aware of the different types of diabetes. And I get that, but at the end of the day, like sometimes it's not worth your time to try to educate them because we all know social media sometimes just doesn't get through to some people. However, if it's in person, if somebody made a comment to me about, you know, oh, did you get diabetes because you had too much sugar as a kid, I would use that as an opportunity to educate them on, no, this is what diabetes is. This is how it happened or how it didn't happen. And, just use that as an educational platform, whether it gets through to them or not. But you have to kind of advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself when, because these comments, we kind of take them personal. We feel a little attacked, like we did something wrong, when at the end of the day, we know diabetes, you know, didn't happen because we did something wrong. It just happened. So, yeah, I would say just use it as an opportunity to educate and do your part, whether it gets through to them or not. But, at the end of the day, you did what you needed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same for you, Mitra, but same thing is, even though I don't deal with it on a daily basis, whenever I see comments like that, I just I want to just kind of be like, yes, give them maybe a little smack on their head, like, come on, haven't you learned? But again, you kind of are like, maybe not, maybe they don't know. So let's just take this opportunity and turn it into a positive experience for everybody involved. So you can have people who aren't necessarily living with type 1 be your advocates as well, I think.
Yep. And I think too.
Oh.
I mean, it's important because it doesn't matter like what you're living with. There's ignorance about so many things, and any type of comment that puts someone down for a reason that's not, under their control, it's like we don't have space for that. That is not what we do here. And another thing I was going to say is, when you're in person with someone, I can imagine that you feel much more inclined to have that conversation versus when it's online, because you get an influx of those kinds of comments sometimes online. And you already do so much online to educate So it's like, if you're not reading my posts, then like, what else can I really do for you here?
Exactly.
And you end up with, oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
Go for it.
I was going to say, sometimes you don't know when somebody's trolling too. Like, they know, but they're just trying to get something going or get a rise out of you. So it can be difficult.
Exactly. I think, like, you know, a lot of times, like you said, Mitra, like, I think people just don't even care to read, like, other people's posts. So I think, you know, if somebody made an ignorant comment, it's like, look, there's a whole diabetes community out there. Like, do your research first, and then, you know, come back and see, would you say the same thing, or are you still going to be ignorant about diabetes? But yeah, that's all on them. Like, do your research. That's all.
Sometimes I just want your attention too. Like, I want David to respond to me.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of internet trolls out there that just want somebody's attention. Okay, Mitra, I think one more comment if we have any, do we?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I actually have, I had a question. This might go kind of deep again, but other than like feeling like you can't share your emotions, or sometimes feeling that way as a male in the space, are there like any other stigmas that you feel like you personally face doing what you do?
Yeah, I think in terms of stigma, it goes, you know, hand in hand with just the fact that it's diabetes, and there's still that stigma around diabetes. You know, and if you turn it to doing what I do, which is, you know, being present on social media about a chronic illness, I think there could be a stigma around that. Like, you know, we hear now a lot about YouTubers and bloggers and different people who just, you know, they have their niche on what they want to talk about. And it's always, you know, cooking or fashion or animals or whatever you want to talk about. And so I know, like, talking about a chronic illness and making a page just dedicated to a chronic illness can be a unique thing for people who don't have a chronic illness. So I get that. And, like, you know, I've come across, you know, classmates or, you know, people I work with who might, you know, they don't have diabetes, and they might look at my Instagram for the first time and they're like, oh, that's kind of unique. Like, I've never seen somebody be so open and talk about their personal, you know, physical health, all of that. And I get that it is unique and it can have that stigma around it, but I almost look at that as like an honor. Like, I get to be that difference to talk about these things when, you know, years ago, nobody would talk about their diabetes. Nobody would talk about any other chronic illness they're going through. And so, you know, added to that, you know, being a guy, that's extra unique, talking about life with diabetes. But I take that as like a superpower. Like, that's what I want to do, to help others. And I think, you know, that's all that you need to really focus on, is just kind of taking what you were given and using it for something good, whether it has a stigma or not. You know what you're doing at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, I would like to say that blogging about, you know, life with diabetes is much more impactful than blogging about fashion. So, I mean, if fashion intersects with what you're talking about, that's amazing. But like, you get to be part of something bigger, and I think that that's so wonderful that you can merge your talents and your passion for design and really be an advocate in the space. We love it, and we appreciate you.
That's what I was going to say. I definitely look at your page. And if you don't follow David, make sure you do. T1D Livabetic. Check out, he's got a cool store with some merch on it, and his Instagram is amazing. You post good content. But I see somebody, not just somebody who's living with diabetes, but you're very creative and you're a unique person. So I think that that you kind of have a good balance between not just being somebody who has diabetes, but you are a very creative individual as well, who's quite inspiring. So another reason why we're very excited to have you here today.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, I think it's time to clink our glasses. Mary, I'll let you lead this one because my spatial awareness and timing is just...
I was going to say, I think David has to go up and you and I kind of have to go down in the corners to make it work. Like,
okay.
Or we just go towards the camera.
Okay, let's go towards the camera.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. All right, guys.
Perfect.
That was so fun.
Yep. Thanks again,
Thank you so
David.
much. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. This was a lot of fun.
Of
Really
course, we'll have to
appreciate
do this again soon.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Bye.